Hello, guys, and welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. It's me, Alex Whiteley. I'm here again, and today I'm. This is crazy. I love doing these icebreaker things where I speak to lots of different people. The medley of interviews that we put together for the Belle Vue Arts Festival opener at Greyfriars. These things are really important because it's networking. And networking is really, really important. And it led me to meeting the guys at Omega, who I absolutely adore. When it comes to communication and battling loneliness and, connecting people, it's really important to me to find out more about this. So, alas, here we are today. And we are on Town Balls in London House, and we're speaking to, is it Thomas?
Tom
Memery from Omega. How are you, Tom? You good?
I'm fine, and thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, it's very short notice, and I love that. I love the spontaneity of it all, because that's what I live for. I was very taken back by the Belle Vue Arts Festival and how it sort of brought the community together. Does that mean a lot to you to be a part of something like that?
Yeah, it's an exciting event, and we've been involved for 2 or 3 years now. And one of our colleagues, he's a retired consultant surgeon who loves growing things.
Yeah.
So we have a plant stall there. And
he's great.
It's something that gets us noticed because people come back and they make advance orders. But the main part of the event for us is about meeting new people like yourself.
Yeah.
So it works.
It does. I have 2 different modes, and we were just talking about this before I hit record. I have the there's a lady come up to me this morning. My little boy was with me, and I wear my Shrewsbury Biscuit t-shirt, and she was like, "Oh, you're on TikTok." I was like, yeah. And we started talking, and both me and Timmy are both nervously jittering away, kind of, yeah, thanks. Oh, that's really nice. I really do. I genuinely appreciate it. But inside my body is a little guy doing jumping jacks, like, oh my god, this is crazy. But there's behind the mic, focused. This is what I'm here to do. Alex mode. That's the podcast mode of me. That's a different thing. When I was at the Belle Vue Arts Festival, there was something about that opening event that just really relaxed me. People were very friendly, very open to talk, and I feel like you've kind of attached yourself to the right thing there for Omega. And I did a little bit of research. Of course, I was doing a little bit of research, but we're going to learn about Omega as the listeners do. So is Omega a local, independent thing, or is it a nationwide charity?
We're a national charity, but it's very much a Shrewsbury thing as well. We started here in 2007, and we work mainly in the West Midlands, but we do help people throughout the country. And you'll find that most of our volunteers are local, but the clients are skewed around the Black Country and beyond.
Yeah. And you guys, it started 2007. Have you been here from the beginning?
Yeah.
Have you really?
Yes. The charity started working properly in about October 2008. I started in September and opened the office here in October. So yeah, right from the very beginning, really, there was we were quite a different animal when we started. We started working with the Department of Health. We started working with doctors and care homes, and then in 2010 we started looking deeper into our own community. We started working with family carers, and that's really what we are at the moment. It's about supporting people, looking after people who aren't very well.
It's really hard. I mean, I remember there was a big appeal a few years ago for carers, especially young carers. Carers come in all shapes and sizes and ages and genders, and there's got to be some respite out there for somebody who is constantly caring, looking after, being responsible. It's not easy being responsible for a human life, whether it's a baby, whether it's an older person, whether it's a family member, whether it's your job, your profession. Being responsible and making sure that person survives and has the best quality of life is hard, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things you quickly pick up on is that it can be relentless, and you must remember that lots of the carers that we work with tend to be older people, so they're pretty exhausted, particularly people who are looking after a child, an adult child, who has learning difficulties, and they've been caring for them for the whole of their life.
Yeah,
and it doesn't stop. So we tend to support carers over the age of 75 and bereaved former carers. So it's working with people who have served the community well and served their families well and served the individuals well. We met lots of carers in their sort of mid-70s. Now they're in their mid-80s and we're still supporting them. And we help them beyond caring into bereavement. So they're really special people. They're just ordinary people doing a wonderful job. And there's lots of research showing that these people save the country billions of pounds. The amount they save is equivalent to the total cost of the health service. And clearly people worry about money all the time, but they forget that family carers are making a massive contribution to society generally. And unless you've been involved in caring yourselves, you don't tend to think about these things.
No. There seems to be a lot of that at the moment. It's kind of like the world is so was it polarized? There you go. I was going to say polar opposite. Yeah, polarized. There seems to be half the world that's really compassionate and really wants to make a change in the world, and half that's kind of like, well, it doesn't bother me, so I'm just going to crack on with my life. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bigger portion of people that care or less. I don't know, but I feel like we need to do a little bit more to sort of reach out to the less compassionate. To like, actually, you need to understand that without these carers, lots of money will be taken. Tax money and put into national services to help out. You're right. These guys, the carers out there have a very valuable service across the nation, and they do a tireless job that not a lot of people can do, especially at the raw age of 75 plus.
Yeah. For me, I think the crucial thing is whether people have got a supportive family around them, and I think we tend to help people that don't. So. It's no fun when you're struggling, approaching the end of your life totally on your own, and families are busy and they move around, so people get left behind. And I think that's our unique selling point is being there for people that don't have a supportive family close around them. And I think that's something that is a really powerful message to get across. Is that most of us rely upon our families and the people close to us. Some of the people that we work with no longer have a supportive family around them. Yeah. And that's very sad, because I think we all need people to help us. We need interaction with people. And when people can't get out and about, then they become socially isolated. And then they need a lift to break out. And as you become frail and less mobile, that's harder. That's where we've got some marvellous services like Chatterbot and A Letter from Louise, where we're reaching people at home. The difficulty for us very often is finding clients, because our people don't get out much, and they certainly don't listen to podcasts. Yes. But the people close to them might do, or the health professionals and neighbours. So that's why this is important. We've got to find new ways of reaching out to the people we help.
The podcasting things is taking me by surprise an awful lot, because I remember standing up in a boardroom a few years ago and explaining to some very influential people in Shrewsbury that you don't know what a podcast is, but you will do very soon. It's moved so quickly, and it is something that's kind of I thought I would have to really struggle to get the excuse me guys, I'm very sorry, I'm 35 years old, I'm not exactly a spring chicken myself, but the older generation, the more mature, the golden generation of my peers to listen to a podcast. But surprisingly, a lot of the older generation are sort of leaning into podcasts and enjoying them, which is very, very delightful for me. I think that's great. I think sometimes you just need to know that it exists, right?
I don't know much about podcasts, but I think the real benefit is it's something that's there that you can access on your own terms and your own time.
Jules, our ex-co-host, now living in Scotland. How's it going, Jules? If you listen to this, I love you. She said it's like Netflix for radio. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. That's. I haven't personally listened to many podcasts, but if I can recommend one for your listeners, and that is, I think it's called "And the Rest Is Politics." And it's one featuring Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. And it's just two guys from different political perspectives talking about interesting issues. And it's a fascinating conversation. And that that's my only experience, but that's very good.
It's funny when you get introduced to a particular type of podcast. My first podcasts were very much swearing, R-rated fart jokes with Kevin Smith. I always thought, oh, that's what podcasts have got to be. And then I started listening to like Infinite Monkey Cage and Joe Rogan and some of the more intellectual stuff. And I thought, oh, there's some real sophistication sometimes when it comes to podcasts. And that's kind of what inspired me to do the Shrewsbury Biscuit. Yeah, you can make those adult jokes and around meet at the pub type humor, or you can actually do good in sharing some good information in a great way that everyone can listen to. And that's why I structured the Shrewsbury Biscuit the way it is, so everyone can enjoy it. Do you feel like when it comes to loneliness, in the last sort of 15 years or so since Omega started, there has been some technological advances that have sort of helped you guys in your trade?
Oh yeah. I think the obvious example is the iPad. One of our former chairs, Dr. Teresa Griffin, is a local GP. She came up with the idea of helping people suffering from motor neurone disease, which is a horrible disease but very rare. And at that time, it wasn't easy getting iPads released into the community from the NHS. So we went on BBC Radio Shropshire and we launched an appeal and bought iPads, and then we used some speech synthesizing software called, I think, Proloco to go. And we were then able to get out to patients and their families and give them something useful. And we've been able to recycle those iPads. Very often they're used by 3 separate patients. But that's very much where there's been a technological innovation. There was something called a Write Light, which is a big clunky machine that people used to use to speak. And the iPad makes it far more accessible. So when people lose the power of speech, when they're suffering from motor neuron disease, they then have got another option. And one of the nice things about the iPad is that grandchildren understood what it was all about and could relate to their grandparents. So yeah, that's probably the best example. The advent of the smartphone as well has been something that's changed the way we work. It's something that's accessible, and lots of people now have smartphones. When we started, they didn't. They might have had mobile telephones, but not smartphones. So yeah, that is a positive.
I was chatting to one of my colleagues the other day. Well, I won't mention her name, I'll embarrass her. But I was chatting to one of my colleagues the other day, and she was like, "I love these animated GIFs." She's just found GIFs. She shares the animated little short things that you can share on social media and stuff. We constantly find new things, and the amazing the device that helped Stephen Hawking talk. I always thought it's a space age thing. Oh my God, it's crazy that can happen. And now, we've all carried that in our pockets. You can type something on your phone now and press play, and it'll read out what you've written. It's so accessible now. The advances that have been made in technology, and has it had a really positive effect on the community? As it helps people get in touch with you guys, network and stuff. Is it with technology?
I wouldn't say that's been the main benefit. It's about people using technology to access information.
Yes.
But not so much in contacting us. We've always had a fairly rudimentary website, and people have been able to find us through.
It's a very good website. It was on.
Yeah. Oh, that's a new one now. We've got a new one now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Very shiny new website.
Yeah, we've updated recently, and I think that's going to be helpful, because it's a way that we can update and maybe reach out to a fresh audience. But in the past, it was just more of a landing page where people could contact us, and then they'd pick up the phone. So we haven't really as an organisation embraced technology yet in terms of connecting with people. But
there's so much more to come.
Yeah, there is. That's right. I think, I mean, one thing we did during lockdown, which was, I think, useful, and that is that there's a local character actress who plays a character called Doreen Tipton from the Black Country, and she made an advert for our Chatterbox program, and that's a way of reaching a new audience. And it was then posted on YouTube, and people then can perhaps connect with our organisation through their knowledge of Doreen Tipton and her work, and it's always about finding new people and getting them to tell our story in interesting ways. And I think that's what we're always striving for is variety and finding people like you, because I think you've got the skills and the connections that perhaps we don't have, and I think we've got to start breaking down barriers and labels. And think this is about people. It's not about age or illness. It's about people coming together and attacking a problem from different directions. And I think we're more enlightened as a society, and things like technology are bound to help.
Yeah, I think technology and sort of the physical things we can do, used correctly, can have an amazing effect. I mean, like, for example, we're meeting here today not because of technology, because you're out in the community, and I physically saw you guys. I just read that you guys won a Mayor's Award 2022. I wasn't even aware of that, but that is amazing. Congratulations. That is a huge honour, and it obviously shows that you're doing a great thing. But when it comes to the physical, by the way, we're going to be having the Mayor on next week, I think. I was chatting to her. I was like, do you want to come around for a chat? And she was like, okay. I was like, okay. So the Mayor's coming around next week, so we'll be chatting to her. And when it comes to the actual, the physical things that you guys can do, what do you actually put together, aside from technology? What do you guys work on? Do you have focus groups? Do you get carers go out and look at carers? How do you do it?
I think the essence of what we do, it's about ordinary people helping ordinary people.
Yes.
Even though many of our volunteers have got professional skills and knowledge and experience, when they come to work with us, they're just sensible people making a connection with somebody who has a challenge, and all of us can face challenges in different stages of our lives. So what we have to do is get to know people well, and I think there's something deeply personal about many of the relationships that we create. People become friends. They start off just making a connection, that they become companions, but then time and time again they become very good friends, and the support that they deliver goes beyond engagement with Omega. Once they've had an Omega service, you can't forget that the essence is two people have come together and they become, in many cases, lifelong friends. And some of our colleagues have died while they've been giving support, and sometimes a client dies. So that's quite a common thing. But we've been helping people. Some colleagues have been giving support going back to 2012, 2013. Still engaging with the same clients. So people in all that time, they really get to know one another. They have a deep, meaningful conversations weekly. We've recently started writing letters, so we have a pen pal service, so people can get to know one another through correspondence. And that's very powerful as well. It's not just a letter. It's photographs, pieces of artwork, photographs of pets, photographs of maybe things people have created through their hobbies, gardens and flowers, and nice things. So it's just ordinary people helping ordinary people.
They seem to have a lot in common when it comes to caring for people. I guess the similar situations that they find themselves in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think most people face the ups and downs of life, and it's about timing. And so what I particularly like intergenerational stuff. It's nice for young people to help old people, because it's two-way traffic as well. You learn so much from older people, and that's something that I've heard clients say, is how much they learn from their clients.
I've come across that so many times, working on the Biscuit over the years. Some great examples. If you go back and listen to some of the back catalogues that we've had, one of the examples was, I forget her name. I'm very, very sorry, but there's a young lady I interviewed from the castle. the Soldiers of Shropshire Museum. There we go. And she was brought in as a customer relations colleague, and she was a whiz at social media, and she completely transformed the way they move across social media, and that's her role now. And that's very much an intergenerational thing when it comes to, and as well as like way of thinking. There's so many like cliches when you talk about generations, and you talk about the past generation, about how they used to talk and how they used to be. There used to be a very carefree way of talking and thinking about things, whereas now even the generation after me are now kind of like, well, actually we need to change the way we do this. We need to change the way we talk about things, and we're having conversations now I wouldn't have dreamt of having with a young person. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's important to me, and that's the way people collaborate. I think many charities are fiercely competitive, and I think that is an issue. I mean, I used to do commercial work, and I found that the third sector is more competitive than business very often. I think lots and lots of organisations are trying to do good work, but they're not doing good work together. And I think when you do collaborate, lots of fresh opportunities come forward. We've been working with faith groups all over the place, right from the very beginning, where we base our activity within a church. Sometimes we've worked with Sikh temples as well, where there's an existing group of people. It's really important to try and play to our strengths, and also offer extra services to an existing community of clients. And I think then it's about sharing. So clients have more choice, and the charities working with them then have more options to strengthen their offer and extend the range of how we reach out to people. It's not always easy, because people have barriers and constraints to work around, but mostly they can be overcome with once you build trust to get to know people. So it's about starting small, building relationships, and trying to work collaboratively. And this is an example. You coming here to help us is an example of collaboration. We couldn't develop the skills that you have, and it's just it's a waste of our resource. But by sharing your skills, you can reach out to a fresh audience.
I'm always happy to help. We were chatting on the phone yesterday about you wanted to branch out into doing something similar to podcasting, right? You wanted to sort of create something, and I said I'll happily help you guys set up. There's one of the things I've done a few times, not all the time, but I have done it like 4 times I've done it. Where somebody's gone, I am starting a podcast. Can you help me? And I just set them up an Amazon list. This is what you need. Done. Silly things like that. I will help you if I can, because I do believe in this media. I think it's a fantastic media to get into when it comes to, like you said, sharing a story, connecting people. And yeah, I feel like podcasting is definitely, I think it's a really good idea for you guys, because, to have something in the background. You learn new things. It's weird. You absorb. If you're listening to this podcast now and you're a seasoned podcast listener, you'll understand what I'm talking about now. So you'll be doing the hoovering. Maybe you're typing away on the laptop. You're doing the gardening, or maybe you're cycling on your bike. You're kind of listening. You're not really, but you're still absorbing the information. It's very strange how you absorb a podcast.
Yeah, but I think the strength of your podcast is very much local, and I think, as an organisation, we have to deliver in a different way in different areas. I mean, for example, we work in South Warwickshire, and we work in Sandwell. The offer in South Warwickshire is completely different to what we do in Sandwell, but it has to matter to local people. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And I think it's so special that we met you within 200 or 300 yards of this building. And that's important. I mean, I think that coming back to the Belle Vue Arts Festival, it's a very dynamic, engaged community, and I think they reach out to everybody within that community, and they draw people in, and that's a real skill, and I think it's so powerful. But I think it is about making sure you don't overlook what's under your nose.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for when you're looking for people that are lonely and are isolated. When it comes to a charity that works on a national basis, on a huge conglomerate scale, that's not necessarily, I don't think, going to find the intricate little areas of a town where that might be, offer, some, where they'd be able to, might be able to offer some help. Whereas you guys might be able to, because you're more in tune with the community. I think that's a valid point.
Yeah, it's just bringing two people together who are compatible. And that's the real skill that our coordinators have, because they get to know that our volunteers, they get to know the clients, and then they try and nurture the relationship until it's off on its own. But if that doesn't work, then nothing will work. And it's not about slick branding or having hundreds and hundreds of people. It's having the right people and making sure the right people come together. I mean, another good example is you may send a child to a very good school, but if it's not the right school for that child, it's not a good school. So it's about making sure it works from both ends.
Yeah,
and it's quite tricky. It's more of an art than a science. But once you get it right, it's so powerful.
I think I can relate with the Shrewsbury Biscuit, and I always do this. I was like, oh, but what about me? But no, it's my way of relating to you is that there are YouTube channels out there with hundreds of. I was looking at so for the crazy races. Sorry, beg your pardon. For the crazy races video that we shared, it's got 800 views in 2 weeks. I was like, that's fine, let's do it. And I looked at one that my son watches, a YouTube channel, and in 2 weeks, it got like 4.4 million views. We're never going to get that with the Shrewsbury Biscuit. It's never going to happen. We're a community-based podcast. We're here for Shrewsbury. We do have listeners around the world, but primarily we're here for this town. So we're never going to get the millions and millions of things. But I'm happy with that, because it serves its purpose. Like you said, I can't go out there and go to like the biggest, best awards festivals and things like that and be like, here's the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We've got X amount of listeners. It doesn't fit, but it fits for us. If that makes sense. We fit where we need to be. I was going to say my mind has gone blank. There we go. There it's come back. 2007, you start. Okay, 15 years ago. What are some of the most memorable sort of hurdles and challenges you guys have faced at the beginning that you're happy to say that you've accomplished?
I think we've had challenges. Every year brings fresh challenges, but it also brings fresh opportunities. And I think the model that we adopt now is completely different to the one we started with. For example, in 2010, we lost government funding. We were involved in a huge government.
It happened to a lot of charities.
Project. Yeah, with the potential to be around 1.1 million over 3 or 4 years, and that project was just stopped. And it was a £17 million national project. And we were the sole provider of support for carers working with patients facing the end of life. So that was a big shock to us, because we were geared up, we were expanding, and we were a big success story. And the important thing was it taken us a while to make a connection with the client group, and we'd managed to achieve that, and it was growing. So we then suddenly had to find a new way of reaching people with limited resource, because the government funding was no longer there. So we were approached by a local authority who we'd worked with, and they invited us in and recommended that we applied for funding to work in their area, and that started very successfully and grew. And then other local authorities got to hear about what we were doing. Mm-hmm. The way we've worked, though, is about reaching out to other organisations, working with older people and getting on side. We like working with uniformed services. We worked with the fire brigade quite frequently, and they would come and deliver talks to keep people safe. We work with the police. We work with condition-specific charities, and we work with hospices. So really, it's about finding different ways of reaching the people that we want to serve. And then, of course, the people themselves come forward. They become Omega volunteers. They support what we do, and we were able to set up groups, and groups of people then help to solve their own problems. And that's how we've evolved. Then we developed services for people who could no longer come to groups. That's where we're at the moment. So we decided that we couldn't just abandon people because they were too poorly to come to a group. So we launched Chatterbox in 2012 and Letter from Louise in 2017. So no matter where people are, what stage of life they're at, we can find something to connect with them.
I feel like the virtual world that we've all kind of, it's weird, isn't it? Because like Skype has been around forever. It's like I remember when Skype became a thing, but it seems like we've had Skype forever. But it's only during the pandemic everybody's like, we're going to use Zoom now. I was like, what's Zoom? It's just like Skype, but better, and it is better. But like we all kind of we all just sort of fell into it and became such a natural thing to be either on Teams now or Zoom, and everything's kind of. I've been to hybrid events where some was virtual, some was live. I've been to live events, virtual events. It's just an insane world that we lived in. But for folks like yourselves, I feel like there's an opportunity there to reach more people. Right.
Yeah, it's helped us in terms of being able to train people safely. So we can we can recruit people from all over the country, and they can help people where the need is. So during the pandemic, we connected with corporate supporters. So people like Auto Trader and KPMG and Countryside. That there were large organisations who were able to advertise our volunteering opportunities. And that helped us to diversify, really. I think we were able then to change. Everything was face to face. The induction process, the interview process, was all done in this office. So if you couldn't get into Shrewsbury, the chances are you wouldn't be able to volunteer for us. So now we've got a team that come from right across the country. So it's still difficult because we've grown. The demand for what we do has grown. We still need lots more people, but the catchment is much wider, and we've proved by developing online means of training people that we can work more efficiently, and it's more convenient for them. So busy people can't necessarily spare 4 or 5 hours to come and attend an induction session, especially if they don't live anywhere near Shrewsbury. We used to do outreach. We did training in places like Walsall. We've done training in places like Dudley. So we do go out of Shrewsbury, but it's far more efficient to work remotely when it comes to training. Equally, there's lots of very, very good online training now, safeguarding training. Used to be face-to-face. Now we use a Department of Health, an NHS, I think, an NHS programme for safeguarding, and that's done online.
Yeah. It is an amazing world we live in. I mean, I'm not saying that people can just find your training on YouTube, but for my example, a lot of what I've learned with editing, putting things together, video editing, how to set up a mixer for YouTube, which is great for stuff like that. I mean, I remember once we bought a second-hand, it was a bed frame from IKEA. It didn't come with instructions. YouTube had it. It was just there. So the internet is an amazing thing. Gosh, my mind is absolutely racing today. I'm trying to think of what I was going to do. I had a really good point. Really good point. When it comes to, there we go. It's come back to me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that walk through the sun that's frazzled my brain a little bit. I imagine there are many scenarios where carers find themselves very quickly thrust into the position that they find themselves in, whether they expect it or not. Maybe their loved one has a fall or becomes very quickly ill. Or is there a particular sort of service you guys offer for someone that's just thrust into this new world of carer and it's a bit of a panic? They don't know what they're doing, and help. Is that common?
Certainly, there are ups and downs in a caring career where people do deteriorate and have to be rushed into hospital, and that the burden often falls on people left behind because they're panic struck. we're not an emergency service.
No, of course not.
We offer support through our existing relationships with people.
Yeah.
But certainly it's very common. And in fact, we dealt with a situation yesterday where somebody was rushed to hospital and we were unable to contact them. So we spoke with the person's son, and we're going to be following up on with the referring agency to make sure everything's okay. So we're there in the background. We're certainly not there to respond to emergencies. Having said that, we sometimes do have to step in, but it tends to be more by chance, because we might be the only person that our client's spoken to for a whole week, and we pick up on things. But really, we shouldn't be. Society should have provision to make sure people are safe in their own homes, and to make sure that people have got the community support they need. So we're an extra line of defence. We're certainly not there to deal with these emergencies, but we're there to support people who have to come to terms with the emergencies.
Yes, of course. And we're about to step into a very difficult time financially for a lot of people. There are more and more food banks being opened. There are families struggling, and I imagine it affects carers very much so too. Is this something that you guys are having to adapt to, because the cost of living has just it's just ridiculous now? I can't imagine. There's a lot of carers out there. I mean, I know there's a lot of carers that do this as a job. Some people that care for family members. Is this something that you guys are looking at and having to deal with at the moment?
One thing that I've found over the years is that some of the carers that we work with are finding it very difficult anyway, and they're the ones that are very good at living on a limited budget. So they're always in a pretty bad place. For example, we knew when the pandemic struck, lots of our people were lonely anyway, and nothing very much changed for them.
They became even more isolated.
Yeah, it's only the ones that could get out that suffered. But people who had visitors, they were in difficulty. But not everybody had visitors.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's quite sad, really, because although there was this groundswell of public concern, we were there doing this anyway. And I think one of the benefits, if you can call it a benefit, of the pandemic is greater awareness that some people are lonely all the time. And from all walks of life, it's not just about the poorest in society. Anybody can become lonely, and they're forgotten. And hopefully people now understand what it's like to be trapped at home and not being able to just do exactly what you want to do on your terms.
Yeah.
So people living in rural communities are often very, very isolated.
There was a lot of, we can't really take memeology, the way people share memes and things on social media as a way of, viewing how the world is dealing with a situation. But there was a lot of talk about how, when it comes to people that are used to being around others, they were kind of like, oh my God, this is a real shock to me. I had friends that were, living the high life before the pandemic hit, and they really, really struggled. And then there's people that actually really just enjoy their own company. They're like, okay, bring it on. I can sit at home by myself. Some people manage things in a different way, and it does actually make a lot of sense. He's saying that people that are used to having visitors really struggle the most because they're used to living that life.
Yeah, I think
interesting.
The pandemic stripped things down to what's really important. And I think that's helpful. It makes you realise there's lots of frippery that's totally meaningless, and you can do without it. But you can't do without the important stuff, and that is about connecting with people and caring for those around you, and building relationships. But it's life is never straightforward, and if it is, look out for the next downturn. You've got to find opportunities in every situation to go forward and try and learn new stuff, meet new people, and get out and about whenever you can. Even a walk in the park, being close to nature is really important.
Installing a bird table in the back garden.
Yeah. And I say to people, if you can't get out, you can watch a program like Country File, and that's better than nothing. You open the window and listen to the birds.
We were chatting to Age UK a couple of years ago. We were going to go around to some nursing homes and stuff, and put out some posters out and meet some of the people. And like the Shrewsbury Biscuit's a great thing. Podcasting's a great thing. If you feel, if there's you find yourself as a quiet moment and you need something in the background, here we are. This is something that we were going to sort of do, but we just didn't for some reason. But like when it comes to TV, radio, podcasting, it's nice to have that as a fallback. Some people are introverts and don't really enjoy company of others. Some people need that. It's interesting how it all kind of works out. But it's nice to know that they've got folks like Amiga to fall back on if they need it. I imagine caring for someone full time is like we said at the beginning of this. It can be strenuous at times. It can be a full on thing. So sometimes maybe a bit of sit on a chair, a bit of music, I don't know, relax, rather than a full on let's go for a glass of wine with our friends type thing. Everyone's different, aren't they?
Yeah, so they certainly are, and I think and long may it continue.
Yes, absolutely. If somebody if somebody's listening to this, they know a carer that could do with a bit of help, or maybe somebody's listening and they do care for others. How can they get involved with Omega, and how would the first sort of conversation go with you guys if they did get in touch?
I think first of all is to get an understanding of what the need is, and it might be that people can help us and we can help them at the same time. So I think anybody that would like to help somebody who's lonely could come forward and maybe ask to become one of our telephone befrienders. That there is a training process.
Of course, I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And don't forget, just because you're trapped at home doesn't mean to say that you can't help somebody else. And it is such a nice way. So two lonely people can become less lonely, but by developing a relationship that is very, very worthwhile for both. Equally, not everyone's comfortable about talking over the telephone. So writing a letter is something you can do on your terms, and without having to be too in your face and have to deal with constant conversation. And some people find talking difficult, and also listening to people who are in crisis is not easy for everyone.
No,
but writing a letter is a wonderful way of making a connection, and that can lead then to the next step. It might be that once you've started getting involved in writing letters, then yes, the next stage is perhaps getting involved in telephone befriending. But we're always looking for people who are isolated. It might be someone you meet at a bus stop. It might be someone that you meet in a supermarket queue. And if you think that they could welcome some more contact, then ask them to get in touch with us. Not everybody has a computer, so they can telephone. Our telephone number here in Shrewsbury is 01743 245 088. That's 01743 245 088. Or have a look at our new website, which is omega.uk.net. That's omega.uk.net. And there you will get a feel for some of the work that we do and the sort of people that we help. But we're always interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, nice dog in the background there. How's it go? Dogs are welcome on the Shrewsbury Biscuit. I always say that. It's a difficult one with lonely people. I mean, I've been lonely from time to time. Genuinely, I'm not trying to take the mick. I have. I've been like, I wish you could go out and do something today, but nobody's about. It is a painful thing to deal with. There are times when it's hard, and sometimes when it's kind of like, okay, I don't really have many people to bother with, but at the same time, I don't like. It's weird, isn't it? How we all feel different from time to time. Sometimes I'd like the idea of going out. Well, I remember when the pubs first opened after lockdown. We went out with the Team Biscuit. It was great. It was me, Shane, D, a few of us, TS as well. We went out and it was just horrible. It was just hot. There was just too many people all crammed in, and it was horrible. It was a bit too much. But it's crazy. How would you say, say someone's been dealing with this on their own for a long time, loneliness, and how would you approach someone that's been isolated for so long that a very upbeat conversation might give them a bit of shell shock.
Yeah, I think people have to deal with this at their own pace, on their own terms.
Yeah.
And everybody will have their own approach. They know what is best for them. And I think it's about developing trust in the first instance. So people feel comfortable about asking for exactly what they need and being prepared to refuse if what they're offered is not right for them. But I always say to people, try something out, and if it doesn't work, then forget it. And I always say to them, try and look elsewhere. So it's not just coming to us; it's trying to look out for other opportunities as well. I think one of the best places to go are places like Marks and Spencer cafes and supermarket cafes, where they're totally neutral, and you'll find lots of people sitting on their own, drinking coffee, and they might have a nodding acquaintance, but that's a good way to practice connecting with people. Going to somewhere neutral. Libraries are good places where you could go and there are people around you, and then you can gradually build up the confidence to start speaking.
Go sit in the dingle. The dingle's a great place to go and sit.
Yeah, exactly. I think in some parts of the country, I don't think we do it here yet, but there's something called friendly benches, where there are benches set out and you sit on them and then someone comes along and has a chat.
Ooh.
Now, that could be a nuisance in some cases, but I don't know.
Maybe not in somewhere like the dingle where you would expect to see, a dozen kids sat on a bench like, "Oh, governor," "Oh, boss."
Yes, that's right. I mean, I think it's not for everyone, but it is something that because I think some people find it difficult to open a conversation. Once the conversation has started, you're away, and it happens, and that takes a lot of doing for some people. So sitting on the bench might not be right for everybody, but it's good. I mean, I've heard of another group locally. It's a men's walking group. And that's,
Dan Reed, a great friend of our show. Yeah.
Brilliant idea.
Talk to Tom as well.
Yeah, brilliant idea. I think that's exactly the sort of thing you're looking for. Give people. I think doing something neutral. I mean, I used to do a lot of bird watching. That's a wonderful way of bringing people from different backgrounds together.
Yeah,
walking, bird watching. And I mean, getting men together is quite difficult. We've had groups of just blokes, and that they've been very successful. But I think you just offer people choice, and you give them space, and tell them it's okay to say this doesn't work for me. That's the way I think we need to.
I struggle with the alpha male thing. I do, because I'm not like your oi oi kind of. That almost sounded like the '90s revival. That wasn't a dig at the '90s revival, by the way. But they're the type like, oh, hi mate, how's it going? Like, I'm not that kind of guy, and I struggle in those loud groups sometimes. So yeah, I know you mean. You need to find the right people for you. I feel like maybe we should campaign for one of these benches, Tom. I think we should go to the council and see if we can find something.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's something that it could be started quite. And Shrewsbury, Shrewsbury Council might be willing to do something like that. And
I've talked a lot. I'm a big champion of mental health services. Especially when it comes to men, open up about their feelings. Women too, I want to do a bit more work with the WI. I was reading a story one of theirs on Facebook today, and I was like, oh, do you know what? We had so many great conversations with the WI, and then it kind of fizzled out. So we need to. I like that. It's all about maybe a conversation with someone from Men Walking and Talking, or Talk to Tom, or the WIs. Maybe that just helps you on your path to maybe going to see about counselling, making friendships, like you said. It's kind of like social weight training, isn't it? You take one step, then another, and then do a bit more, then do a bit more, and before you know it, you're having lunch with a few friends. Yeah.
I think trying different things out. I mean, I've been lucky in my work because I go to all sorts of different events and meet different people, but not everybody has that opportunity to get out and about. And I think there's an expense as well. Not everybody can afford to get out and about. Yeah,
having a friend doesn't mean you have to go for a pint. You don't have to do that. You can go and watch a movie at home together or something, or you can go for a walk, play some golf. Golf is money, but you can go and do stuff together.
But there are people that may live in a small village with poor public transport. There are people who have got responsibilities in terms of having to raise money to live, and they may be looking after children and then looking after someone who's sick at the same time. They just don't have the opportunity to devote time to themselves. And people talk about the example in an aeroplane where you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you help others. And that's the big problem for the people that we work with, is they've devoted their lives to others and they've forgotten about themselves. And then at the end of their life, that they're left exhausted.
With a void as well, I imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's catching up, really.
Yeah.
And it's nice to catch up with somebody else. So it's not, you're not doing it on your own, that you can make a connection with someone in the same position that understands what you've been through.
And it might, we talk about grief, and you can talk about grief as if it's like a big, huge, universal conduit, something that we all go through. But the grief when you've devoted most of your life to caring for someone, like you said, to the point where you're very consciously making sure that they're cared for more than yourself. Once they're gone, that must be a different kind of grief to anything else anybody's felt. There must be a specific way of feeling when you've cared for someone for that long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not a practitioner, but it's a very complex personal area where grief is different for different people, and there's different phases of grief. So there's all sorts of issues. Not least where you are in your life when grief happens, and if you're in a very good place, it's easier to come to terms with grief. But if, for example, you've had a very traumatic loss, or you've got an awful lot on your plate anyway, and on top of that, then you suffer loss, then it becomes very, very difficult, and the nature of the dying process as well can be difficult. There is such a thing as a good death, where everything is as it should be, because death is a natural process.
Of course,
we've got to remember that everybody will die, and to die with loved ones around you when your affairs are in order and people are prepared is one thing, but to lose someone unexpectedly, or when you're going through difficulties yourself, then it's exceptionally difficult. But it's never a nice thing for anyone.
No, it's never easy. I mean, I got a family member who works in nursing, and come back from work and sit on the sofa, stare at them at the distance, and be like, "Well, we lost someone today," and he's got to go to bed, wake up, and go and do it all again tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? That's a very quick way of dealing with the grief processes. I mean, even as a professional, it mustn't be easy. I mean, especially if you're a carer for many, which I do know people that will go from one person to another to another to care, and to deal with one thing and then go and crack on and be professional with the other. It mustn't be a very healthy process to deal with. So there must be services out there to help people deal with that.
Yeah, there are specialist services, and I think, again, it's finding the right one for you at the right time. And very often you find the right service when it's too late, and you realise, if only you'd known about something at the time.
I've been carrying this for 15 years. If only I'd have known then.
Yeah. No, that's part of the issue, really.
Well, I thank you so much for doing what you guys do. I mean, helping people that help others. You guys are like a crutch for people that help people with the crutches, right?
Well, it's something that we do with the community we engage with. I think that lots and lots and lots of people have been involved in aspects of our work and continue to be involved in our work, and that's the issue. It's not about us doing things; it's about doing things together and making sure we continue to do things together.
You're adapting to a world that's constantly changing around you, and there's a lot of people that didn't adapt and now are no longer with us. So you've had the hindsight to do that. So well done. The website omega.uk.net. Go and check it out, guys. Please do. If you know someone that might benefit from Omega's services, please get in touch via the website. Tom, you've been absolute pleasure to speak to. We were meant to do 40 minutes. It's now going on 55, nearly an hour. That's because I love talking about this sort of thing. And if there's anything we can do to help you guys at The Biscuit, please get in touch. I'm definitely happy to help you guys set up a studio, or, if you want me to help out in any way, set anything up for your podcast. I'm very much a champion for this sort of thing. So you have my help.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your listeners.
Yeah, thank you. I do need to talk about something very, very important to me, and sorry to talk about one charity while I'm speaking to another, but collaboration and Shrewsbury being the great town it is. But Pod Aid is back, guys. We are going to be doing it again, 24 hours live in front of both mic and camera. It's a live podcast. We did it last year. We raised over £3,000 for Lincoln Davis through donations, through corporate donations too. Now, let me explain something to you guys. This thing is it's very important to me that we do this. I love doing it. We have 24-hour long guests, and every single hour is split up into a slot, and every slot will have a guest, and it will have a sponsor or advertisement opportunity. So we have hour-long advertising slots available. We are selling them. We're selling them slow. They're for if you have a business or a company or a band or whatever it is you have. If you wanted to buy a slot for £100. We will then display your logo and be like, this hour is brought to you by such and such. And we will then talk about your business, anything you want us to read out. We'll do that. We had thousands of listeners worldwide and locally, of course, throughout the whole thing, Pod Aid last year. So if you want to get involved, please get in touch. My email is shrewsburybiscuitpodcast@gmail.com. We are slowly working on our guest list. The advertising hour-long slots we need to sell. And I am absolutely determined to sell every single one of those hour-long slots this year. So please get in touch. Do it sooner than possible because they will sell, but we need to get you in early. So you can send me across your logos and tell me what you want. So anyway, Tom, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you.
Make sure you guys get in touch with Amiga. This has been the Shrewsbury Biscuit Podcast. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.